moving. So what's on your mind, man?
Well, I wanted to jump in right where you were at on the Karmelo case, because the issue that I'm having with the case is that it seems like black conservatives are having this conversation. It's like they're trying to convict the kid in the court of opinions. And the problem that I'm having with is that I only hear them having that conversation from the angle of the kid who unfortunately perished, and like his sibling and anybody else that's talking. Nobody is having a conversation from Carmelo's POV, and I'm trying to understand why that is.
I'm not Karmelo Anthony, so I don't know. My guess is that. Oh wait, hold on. That might have flown over my head. So you're telling us. So your contention is that nobody's talking about this from the point of view of Karmelo Anthony.
Yeah, it's like so what I'm hearing is people will say, oh, he stabbed the kid, he did this, he did that. Other people said this, other people said that, other people said that. But they
I got you. Okay, that makes sense.
He said. What about what he said though? He was in the inside of the experience. What he says doesn't matter at all.
It does matter, and what he says is all over the police report. He told the cops, "I did it." And then when he says, "I've got the alleged stabber," he says, "No, officer, and it's not alleged. I did it." He said he put his hands on me, and that's why I stabbed him. Then he told the story. I went into the tent. I don't know. I honestly don't know. I don't think we've heard his account of the story. That's actually a very good point, that we haven't heard his, I guess, detailed account, like step by step.
Right.
But be that as it may, that doesn't mean that he's not guilty. Now, I do agree with you. On this point. It is we can't convict the kid in the court of public opinion. But guess what? We're not able to, okay? Because the court of public opinion, this case isn't tried in the court of public opinion. It's tried in the court of law. So yeah, we can convict him in the court of public opinion all we want to. What really matters is what happens in the courtroom.
No, absolutely. But I'm just saying, like, for me personally, right? When we have these conversations, and I'm speaking, that's why I'm literally speaking specifically about black conservatives, because that's what concerns me.
Okay,
right. That we live in a day and time where we have way more black people who are aligning with conservatism, and it seems as if they choose to turn off their brains, right? They choose to turn off their ability to think for themselves, and then just align with what they think the ideology or talking point should be coming from the political ideology that they subscribe to.
Well, hold on. This has nothing to do with any ideology, okay? Carmelo Anthony stabbed an unarmed student to death. My ideology, my conservative values has nothing. And I'll give you an example. Here. Okay. I am staunchly against abortion. Okay. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it's not political or religious for me. For me, the reason I believe abortion is wrong is because I think it is wrong to kill people before they are born, right? It doesn't have anything to do with my religion or lack thereof. It doesn't have anything, and I'm not an overly religious person. I'm formulating my opinion based on what I know. It has nothing to do with my conservatism. It doesn't matter when one person, regardless of color, sex, whatever the case may be, when one person stabs another person unarmed, based on the facts that we know, yes, that is my opinion. My opinion is based on the facts. It's not based on my ideology. It's not based on my worldview. This is just a simple matter of the difference between right and wrong.
Well, let me give you this, right? Because I think actually, I'm very careful with using this word to describe people. Okay, but I think you might actually be pretty smart. And the reason why I say that is because you're the first person who I heard give the take that you gave on Shannon Sharp, which is that he tried to have sex with a sex worker for free.
Yeah. Yep. There you go.
I might actually have to clip that and respond to it on my own show, because
clip it, man.
Nobody else is giving that take.
Yeah. Right? Shannon Sharp tried to. And listen, you're familiar with the term "don't cheat." You can't cheat the game. And you can't cheat the game applies to every part of life. You got girl. You want to know how girls are out here trying to cheat the game? Trying to cheat the game with BBLs. That's why girls are dying with BBLs. Why? Because they're trying to cheat the game. If you want a nice ass, you got to get in the gym and work for it. Going down to Brazil and getting a BBL, that's cheating the game. Okay. Just like you said, Shannon Sharp tried to have sex with a sex worker without paying. That's cheating the game. It don't go down that way. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's the first time I've heard that take like that. So that was a pretty good take. But the reason why I'm saying that, the reason why I'm complimenting you first is because I want to make sure that your mind is open to receive this.
Sure,
When a black person says, "Oh man, it was self-defense," and then people have this reaction to it in my space, and that's why I want to take it away from you. In my space where I'm at, I'm in the Angry Man Anton Daniels space.
Okay.
And in our space, those people will immediately be assigned liberal Democrat, right?
Okay.
But I wouldn't say that they were necessarily wrong if you did that, because if you start talking to them, it's probably more likely. But in the same way, with the people who are throw him away, put him in jail, he's a killer, and all that other stuff, they also happen to be conservative, right-leaning people. Right. And so that's what I'm saying. It's like these takes are just being regurgitated from people, and it seems to be based on whichever side of the fence they're standing on.
And you could be right. Listen, you could be right. I'm telling you, man to man, I'm thinking for myself. Based on what I have seen and heard, I believe Karmelo Anthony is guilty of the crime of murder. Now, I will say this. A lot of people got up in arms when they heard that the bond got reduced from $1 million to $250,000.
Right.
I didn't really care. I didn't get upset with that because number one, he's got the ankle monitor on. Number two, he's not a flight risk, at least not yet. Number three, It's not like he's going to go out and stab and start stabbing people in Frisco, Texas. He's got the world is watching this kid. Number four, the reason why I don't have a problem with the bond reduction is this kid is likely going to prison. I mean, listen, and I'm not trying to straddle both sides of the fence, but I mean, let's try to be humane, and let's at least give this, if this kid has a year or two of freedom left before he goes away for 20 to 25 years, the least we can do is allow him to spend it with his family. I don't think, and I'm not going to come on here and say, well, we should lock him up because he's going to go out and kill somebody else. Dude, Karmelo Anthony's not killing nobody else. Everybody's watching. We should lock him up because he's a flight risk. Karmelo Anthony doesn't. Dude, everyone knows who he is. He's not flying nowhere. The world knows about this case, and they don't have they don't have the means, at least not yet, to fly him anywhere. So as far as I'm concerned on that, I can definitely be objective in that regard. All of that said, based on what I've seen and heard, I believe Karmelo Anthony is guilty. Now I will say this, and then I'll hand it back off to you. What I am starting to realize is that there are a lot of black people who want to see Karmelo Anthony skate, whether he's guilty or not. And the reason they want to see him skate is because of the whole oppression thing. They've been getting at us, slavery and this and that and this and that and the third. This was the same sentiment with the OJ case. Myself, I was 18, 19 years old when the OJ verdict came down. I was happy for the same reason. I was like, you know what? Those cops beat the shit out of Rodney King and they got off. And so they deserve to lose Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. And hindsight being 2020, that is not the right way to look at things. Wrong is wrong is wrong. Those police officers should have been convicted for beating Rodney King, just the same as OJ should have been convicted for killing Nicole, again, based on what we've known and what we've seen.
Well, I can't necessarily disagree with that. Because honestly, it would be the only thing that made sense technically, to your point, based off of the information that we have. Sure. If you're just automatically assigning a verdict either way, right? And that's my point, is that whether you're doing it for guilty or not guilty, it seems to be based on some sort of political ideology, or feelings like you're mentioning now, right? Feelings about the country or people or colors or demographics in one way or the other. But it's like when people use he said he did it. I'm like, well, why don't you say the whole statement that he said? He didn't just run out and say, yeah, I did it. And what? That ain't what he said. He said, no, officer, I'm not alleged. I did it. Does that sound like somebody whose intent was to kill? Well, when nobody brings up the fact that he asked, is he going to be okay? I don't hear people mentioning this at all. They're just going with, he stabbed the kid, he took a life, lock that nigger up.
Okay. Yeah. Guess what? He still deserves to go to jail, even if even if everything you're saying is the truth. Because I agree with you. There are some conservatives that, like, for example, I'll give you an example. Jason Whitlock. He is a black conservative. Blah 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 blah. Right. 100% black conservative. I totally disagree on his stance about Deion and Shedeur Sanders. He really does not like him and that kid. I think that his opinion is driven by that ideology. But as far as I'm concerned, here's the thing. Just because black conservatives, just because their opinion is based on their ideology and their conservatism, doesn't mean they're not correct in their opinion that Karmelo Anthony is guilty of first-degree murder in the murder of Austin Metcalf. And I remember there was one time, me and my brother were in a subway a long time ago, and we got into this debate about the NBA draft being rigged. I don't know how old you are, but did you hear about have you heard about the NBA being fixed with like the frozen envelope and all that other kind of stuff?
No, I'm never.
Oh man, I'm not. Look, I'm not going to bore you with it. I'm not going to get into it. But he was like, Alex, like, dude, I'm telling you, it could have happened. And I said, you know what? You're right. It could have happened. But just because it could have doesn't mean that it did. Okay. Are there people who are racially motivated to say, lock that nigger up because they just don't like black people? Absolutely. But guess what, Beans? There are people on the other side. There are black people saying, let that black boy go free because they are racist against white people. Whatever the case may be, whyever they have their opinion, the facts are the facts are the facts. Karmelo, and here's the thing, and here's the thing.
But Donovan, we don't actually have facts for first degree. That's my point. If you say he's guilty of taking a life, absolutely. But we don't have facts for first degree.
Let me ask you this. That's actually a very good point. He's still going to prison. He is guilty of. He might not be guilty, and I'm not a lawyer, and maybe he's not convicted of first degree murder. Maybe he's convicted of second degree murder. Maybe he's convicted of manslaughter. Whatever the case may be. Either way, Karmelo Anthony needs to be held account for his actions. And I've come on and said unpopular opinion here. I'm just going to keep it real with you. I hope justice is served. If he is convicted of first degree murder, he's got to do all that time. But I don't, and I am, dude, I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and I've always been one that says, hey man, you can't use someone's worst moment as a referendum on their entire life. But all worst moments aren't created equally. This child killed another child, and he needs to be held account to that. But the human side of me says, you know what? I was a young black 17-year-old at one point, right? And I had a temper problem. Right. And so I can sort of identify with who and what he is and what he's going through. The only difference is I was on the outs because of the way I talked. Right. But the point is I was like, man, if I had committed something like that, I mean, I wouldn't want them to lock me up and throw away the key. And so now I'm actually thinking from Karmelo Anthony's, standpoint. If I'm Carmelo's dad, I want him to be held accountable, but I don't want him to never see the light of day again. Right. But that's easy for me to say because I'm not the one whose son is 6 feet under. I'm sure that the Metcalf family probably wants them to lock him up and throw away the key. So I've tried to be as objective as I possibly can with this. But again, based on what we know, I believe that Karmelo Anthony is definitely guilty of murder. Whether it's first degree or second degree doesn't matter to me. He unjustifiably killed Austin Metcalf, and I think, and honestly, if I had to bet, I would not bet in the court of law. I wouldn't bet on his innocence or guilt because there is a better than average chance that he might get acquitted for reasons that have nothing to do with what he did.
Well, in my opinion, again, like you said, I'm not a lawyer, even though I've stood in front of a judge several times in my life.
Real shit.
but the thing, if I would say this. First degree, I can see there where he might get acquitted. It just doesn't fit. Just off what I've heard, it doesn't fit. Even second degree doesn't fit to me. Manslaughter is a better charge in this situation. It fits to me. And to be honest with you, now I'm willing to give my opinion. It should be involuntary because I don't think it was his intent to take the life, right? His intent was to harm and get out of there. Right, it's the same thing when they say if somebody big. When I was a kid, they said if it's somebody big or if it's 2 or 3 people, you hit the biggest one and you get out of that. Right, and so he in this situation where it's him versus in his opinion, from his point of view, it's more people in there. He's alone, right? So he hits the biggest one and he gets out of there. He just so happened to do it with a knife, and that ended in a life being taken. Now I'm gonna say this, and I'm not necessarily suggesting this, even though I'm not suggesting it here, even though I'm suggesting it elsewhere. Sure. When I was 17, I got caught with drugs. Okay. And I was going to court, and it was my first offense. Everybody and their mama was telling me you would be all right. They not gonna send you to prison. So, oh shit. But I was still scared. So what I did was I signed up for military school. And the judge was like, oh, okay, so you're going to go to this military school? Okay, cool, then I'll give you 18 months probation. And I went to the military school. Now, I ended up getting kicked out of the military school for fighting, and I loved it, though. I'm not going to lie, I loved every minute of being at that military school. Okay. To me, they need to create more options like that. Now, people might say that ain't good enough for a situation where a life was taken away.
It's a start,
I'm just
right?
saying, in general, because I don't know what people think about prison, but the recidivism rate in prison is ridiculous.
Of course.
They get more prisoners back in there than corporations get people back on the job. Okay? You go in there, you got about a 70% chance of coming back. Okay, that's really horrible. So I'm just saying, we need something other than that, especially when intent matters. If you know about the case of the kid, and I'm just gonna mention it, he just so happened to be white, he just so happened to be affluent, he's driving young, no license, under the influence of alcohol at a minimum, maybe even drugs. I don't necessarily remember. Driving, speeding, hits a van, takes the life of 4 people, critically injures another. He gets 10 years probation for 4 deaths and 1 other person critically injured. And they said his defense was called affluenza. I'm so wealthy that I don't understand the consequences of my actions.
It sounds to me, respectfully, hold on, respectfully, it sounds to me like you're trying to justify Carmelo's actions, and
I'm not justifying his actions.
It sounds like it really. No, it sounds no. Hold on, it sounds like you are. And by the way, here are the elements for first-degree murder in Texas, also known as capital murder. Element number 1: the intentional or knowingly causing the death of an individual. Number 2, intending to cause serious bodily injury and committing an act clearly dangerous to human life that results in death. Or number 3, committing or attempting a felony other than manslaughter and during the commission or attempt causing death by an act clearly dangerous to human life. He meets element number.
Wait, is it or and? Is it or?
No, it's or, my friend. Or and that this is where they've got him. Intending to cause serious bodily and committing. I'm sorry, let me repeat that. Intending to cause serious bodily injury and committing an act clearly dangerous to human life that results in death. That right there. Karmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf not in the foot, not in the shoulder, not in the arm, not in the stomach. He stabbed him in the heart. I mean, listen, based on what, who knows, maybe Google is wrong, but this is why they arrested him, is because the actions he took met the element of first degree murder. Let me ask you another question. This is a good conversation, actually.
Yes, exactly. I agree with you.
What would you have to see and hear to be convinced of Anthony's guilt? Actually, let me preface it with this. Mm-hmm. If there is video, and I just want to make sure I'm straightforward and 100% honest with people. If there is video, if there is video of the act or of the activity, if there is video that exonerates Karmelo Anthony, I will be the first to come on here and say, guys, I got it wrong. If there is a video that shows Austin Metcalf pulling out a knife and saying, "Hey, get up out of this tent or I'm going to stab you." If there is video of him of him being ganged up on, if there is video of Austin Metcalf having a weapon and accosting Karmelo Anthony, and Karmelo Anthony, hey, you know what? I will be the first to come on here and say, guys, I got it wrong. I'm going to have to wait. If there's another case like this, I'm going to have to wait until I hear and see all the facts before giving my opinion. So now my question to you, Beans, is what would you have to... I just told you what I had to see and hear to convince me of Karmelo's guilt. What would you have to see and hear to convince yourself... I'm sorry, of Karmelo's innocence. What would you have to see and hear to convince you of Karmelo's guilt?
So first I want to say nothing. The reason why I'm saying nothing is because I already believe he's guilty. He's guilty of taking a life. There's no way around
that's not.
that.
Okay, no. Let me.
You see what I'm saying? There's no.
No. Hold on. No. Beans. You keep telling me he is guilty of taking a life. I'm asking you straight up. No. I'm asking you straight up, point blank. Is there a world in your mind? And listen, I just sat here and told you. Okay, I'm being honest with you. I want you to be honest with me. Don't talk around this, okay? Because you're a smart guy. You really are.
I'm not.
Hold on. I want you to hear what I'm saying. If I see video that shows that Karmelo Anthony's life was in danger, and that Austin Metcalf had a knife, and that Karmelo Anthony literally feared for his life, if I see that video, I will be the first to come on here and say, you know what? Karmelo Anthony is 100% innocent. The reason I'm asking you the same question on the other side is because I want to know if you came into this conversation in bad faith. Is there a world? What would you, Beans Low Podcast, have to see to convince you of Karmelo Anthony's guilt? I told you what I would have to see to convince me of Carmelo's innocence. I asked this question for a reason, and I think we all know what that reason is. So now, what say you?
Because I'll be honest, at first I didn't like the way you were framing your example, because it's like, well, we know that didn't happen. But I see now there's a premise to you asking the question that way.
Well, no. So what I was saying is that if I see evidence, if I see a video where Austin Metcalf has a knife and he attacks Karmelo, guess what? Dude, you got to drop the charges.
But what I'm saying is we both know that's not going to happen. You see what I'm saying?
We know that's not the case in the situation. So what you are now this is what I was getting at. So what you're telling me is that there is nothing that you can see or hear that will convince you of Karmelo.
Well, I haven't answered it yet. I'm just saying the way that you framed it.
Okay, well, go ahead. Forget all that.
Now I understand why you asked it that way.
Okay, so now answer the question, please.
So for me, it would have to be what if the situation went the way that the report says, because I'm gonna be more realistic. If the situation went exactly the way the report reads, then I would say he was guilty.
Let me stop you right there. Hold on. Let me stop you right there. No, you're right. Let me stop you right there. Here's the thing, Beans. And I think this is where a lot of people get tripped up. In criminal court, okay, the standard of proof is guilt beyond all reasonable doubt, not guilt beyond the shadow of a doubt, Beans. Okay? There is a big difference between reasonable doubt and shadow of a doubt, okay? We are not going to know everything even if there's video, we're not going to know what went through people's heads. We're not going to know what other people there are a lot of mitigating circumstances that could really change this. This is why the standard of proof in criminal court is guilt beyond all reasonable doubt, not guilt beyond the shadow of a doubt. So you're telling me that the only way you would be convinced that Karmelo Anthony is guilty of first-degree murder is if you see evidence that he is guilty beyond the shadow of a doubt.
No. I'm saying, listen, use the words that I'm using, Donovan, right? Because we had a great conversation up to this point, right?
Go ahead, please, because I got other guys, but I think you're trying to skate around this, man. I think you're trying to skate around this, dude. I think you're trying to skate around it, man.
Well, that's unfortunate because I think.
Well, it's unfortunate, but it's also true. I don't think that there is a world. Listen, hold on. Okay, hold on. Stop it. I just need you to answer the question. Don't talk about how I framed it. No. Hang on a second. I'm going to say this one more time, okay? I'm not going to put words in your mouth. I don't want you to put words in mine. I'm going to tell you, okay? There is a world, and we can dispense with that thank you stuff. Come on, man. Really? There is a world in the world of Donovan Sharp, Alex Hopkins, where if I could admit that if I see that Karmelo Anthony's life was in danger, I will be the first to come on here and say I was wrong. Okay? If I see and if we want to go shadow of a doubt, if Austin Metcalf had a knife and he attacked Karmelo Anthony with it, and Karmelo Anthony stabbed him in the heart, guess what? He is innocent. He is innocent of all charges. He should get to go home. The rest is history. I'm asking you the same thing. And this is me being genuine. There is a world where I can see where Karmelo Anthony could be innocent. I'm not saying he's 100% guilty, but unless I see video that shows me the contrary, he's guilty. So now I'm asking you, what would you have to see to convince you of Karmelo Anthony's guilt?
Right. So uninterrupted, right? I answered that though. That's what I said. I said if the events played out the way that report reads, he's guilty. Because to me, that would say he went in there excuse me, he went in there looking for a confrontation. That's premeditated. If it because the way
takes
we
longer,
on my show, we
hold
actually
on.
pulled up the police report and we read what it said, and I'm like, no conversation goes like this. Now let's say they have a video and the conversation actually went exactly like that, then he's guilty. No way around it.
See, so you said exactly like that, right?
Yeah, because
exactly
that's what
like
they said happened. So if it happened exactly the way that report read, yeah, absolutely, because that means he went in there looking for a confrontation.
Here's the thing, Beans, okay? It takes a split second to develop intent, okay? Just because he didn't go into the tent with the now this is going to get a little bit it's going to get a little bit hairy because a lot of these words sound the same. Yeah. If he does not have to have the intent to walk into the tent to stab and kill Austin Metcalf. It does not, it takes a split second for the element of intent to be met. Karmelo Anthony stabbed Austin Metcalf he stabbed him in the chest, right? He stabbed him in the chest. The intent was to inflict serious bodily harm. Unfortunately, the result was the death of Austin Metcalf. That is why I believe that he is guilty of first-degree murder. But you're and I don't want to get all into the weeds. So you're telling me is if it went exactly the way it said in the report, then you would say he's guilty.
Yeah, because in my opinion, that means he went in there looking for a confrontation.
In your mind, if you don't think so, hold on. So you're telling me that he didn't go into the tent looking for a confrontation, right? So what if it's proven that he didn't go into the tent looking for a confrontation? Is he not guilty?
Not of first degree, in my opinion, no.
Okay.
But I want to say this real quick.
No. Hold on. Let's keep going. No. Hold on. Let's keep going with this.
I got you. That's what I'm saying. I want to make sure you understand what I'm saying.
I hear you.
Remember when I brought up the teen kid who hit those people in the van? The reason why I brought that up is because what that shows is there is precedence, right? Set in cases a lot of times, just not with people who look like us. But what I'm saying is because when you think about it and you consider what they allowed, the grace that they showed for him, what I'm saying is in this same situation, it can be applied if you understand. You're saying now that intent can be just 1 second. That is crazy. First degree is
that's the way the law. It's crazy, but that's no. Hold on, Beans, bruh. Listen, you might think that's crazy, my friend. That's the law. Okay, that's the law.
That's my point about being able to set precedents because
I'm not looking at
that. Means it wasn't premeditated.
All right.
You see what I'm saying?
Okay, it doesn't matter. Okay. So you're telling me that because it wasn't premeditated, he's not still guilty of murder.
Not of first degree.
I think you're splitting straws. Let me ask you a
question. When we hear first degree, do we not say premeditated every single time?
No. First degree murder. I don't see. What do you do, dude? It says, I'm being no, and I'm telling. Hold on. See, this is what I'm. Hold on. I really need you to stop talking. This is what I'm talking about. We're sitting here splitting hairs about what's first degree and what's intent. One of the elements that has to be met for first degree murder is intending to cause serious bodily injury and committing an act clearly dangerous to human life that results in death. Nothing in there says anything about premeditation. It says nothing about premeditation.
That's true. I understand what you're saying. That's why I asked you was it and or. You said it's or.
Yes,
I get that, but that's what I'm saying. That the reason why I brought up the other cases because I'm saying precedents sometimes can be set, right? To me, if I am somebody is beating me up, right, and I just happen to have a bottle.
That's not what happened here.
I understand that, but the reason why I'm saying it is because the reason why I'm doing something, right, should matter more than what actually happens to some degree.
You are wrong.
To some degree. Right?
Your qualifications still don't. Yeah, but guess what?
Just to some degree. All I'm saying, Donovan, just to some degree.
Okay. Do you want Karmelo Anthony to walk? Do you want him to be not guilty of this? And I don't want to hear of what crime. I just want to hear your answer. Do you want Karmelo Anthony to be convicted of whatever crime having to do with the death of Austin Metcalf? Yes or no? There we go. That's it. There it is.
No, it's the fact that you saying conviction, which I don't have a problem.
Nah. It is a clear delineation, guys. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I'm talking about, guys. When you talk to people, he could not tell me. All he had to do was say, no, I don't want him to get away with a crime he committed. No, that's the right answer to the question. The right answer to the question, if you are on the side of Karmelo Anthony, is do you want him to be exonerated? Yes or no? The correct answer there is if he is guilty, of course not. I don't want him to be I don't want him to be convicted if he's not guilty. Then we go to the other side. Well, now I don't believe that he's guilty. What niggas are really trying to do here, and I'm not saying that Beans podcast is a nigga. Shout out to him for coming up. But what they're trying to do, guys, is they're trying to diffuse the narrative. They're trying to bring in all sorts of outside elements to try to somehow justify Karmelo's actions. Okay, Beans was talking about if I'm getting beat up. Karmelo Anthony was not getting beat up. He wasn't. There were multiple accounts there that and it didn't say anything in the report about him getting beat up. The only thing Karmelo Anthony said is he put hands on me. He didn't say they put hands on me. He didn't say they were after me. He said he put hands on me. He put hands on me. That's what he said. That was his justification. There are no other details. Then I asked him a question. And I was actually going to ask this. I was actually going to ask this a little bit later because you can always tell if someone is arguing in good faith with with this thing. And again, I'm going to double down here. Okay. If I see evidence that Austin Metcalf attacked Karmelo Anthony with a weapon or a gun or a knife, hey, hashtag free Melo, hashtag free Karmelo. And guys, I will have zero issue with coming up here and saying, guys, I got it wrong. I got it wrong. But you ask that same question to the other side and you get a bunch of other conversation points, right? I asked him, what would you have to see to convince you of his guilt? His guilt of what? Well, there you go. And I think what we need to underside, Jesus. What we need to understand about the other side in this, and we're talking about niggas, they don't see it in their minds, they're not going to answer that question. That's why Beans didn't answer the question. I'm not saying he's a nigga, but defenders of Karmelo Anthony won't answer the question because he answered the question. Well, number one, that didn't happen. No, answer the question. If you see evidence to suggest that Karmelo Anthony is guilty, what would you have to see to convince you of his guilt? Well, if it happened exactly the way it said on the police report, well, that's guilt beyond the shadow of a doubt. That's not guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. And I agree with him in the fact that, hey, listen, it takes just a few seconds to create intent. He says that's crazy. I think that's crazy too. Guess what? That's the law. That's the law. Marijuana is illegal, or non-medical marijuana, as far as I know, is still illegal in the state of Florida. That's crazy to me. But guess what? I'm not going to walk around smoking a blunt in South Beach. Why? Because it's against the law. Now, people are trying to bring in all this. See, then he wanted to try to bring in intent. Well, he didn't intend to. Premeditation. Then he didn't know what the hell he was talking about. He was talking about, well, every time we talk about capital murder or first degree murder, there is premeditation. Oh, so because he didn't go home and write a manifesto and come to school and carry this out, well, what, he has to do that to convince you of his guilt? That has to happen for it to be premeditated?